What does it mean to live in a century that isn't yours? Picture him, a gaunt figure, eyes lit like storm clouds, pacing through a laboratory that glows brighter than the night outside. In his hand, a sketch that looks like fevered imagination. At his feet, machines waiting to rewrite the laws of power. He is mocked as a crank, a sorcerer, a dreamer gone too far, until the lights blaze alive and the world changes color forever. But here is the harder truth. When vision runs ahead of its time, the world often calls it madness. And Tesla ran 100 years too fast. Tonight we will walk with him through triumphs that lit continents, obsessions that blurred into myth, and secrets that vanished into locked trunks. Some say he touched forces beyond science, others that he spoke with worlds not our own. The evidence is fractured, the rumors endless. Stay with me, because at the end, you may not ask whether Tesla was genius or madman, but whether the strangest thing about him was that he saw us, our wireless lives, our invisible currents, long before we were born. So let us begin, not with the end of Tesla's story, but with its ignition. Nikola Tesla was born into contradiction. His father, an Orthodox priest, believed in salvation through discipline and words. His mother, restless and inventive, shaped the world with her hands, turning simple chores into small experiments. Between the pulpit and the workbench, Tesla learned early that ideas were not decorations. They were instruments, sharp and transformative, capable of remaking reality itself. At university, he devoured physics and mathematics as if racing against time, determined to chart the hidden geometry of the universe. But brilliance came with shadows. He gambled, he faltered, and finally abandoned his studies. Yet in what looked like failure lay his greatest anomaly. Tesla's mind was its own laboratory. He could summon a motor in silence, test it in the theater of imagination, and dismantle it when it failed, without touching a single bolt. To skeptics, this was myth. To Tesla, it was efficiency. Budapest gave him his first serious post. Paris expanded his horizons, and then came the leap across the Atlantic. In 1884, wearing a worn coat and clutching a single letter of introduction, Tesla arrived in New York Harbor. The city glowed with electric promise, but its veins pulsed to the rhythm of direct current. The empire of Thomas Edison. Soon he found himself inside Edison's bustling workshop, surrounded by the roar of dynamos and the sting of hot copper. Officially, he was hired to improve the machinery of direct current, the lifeblood of Edison's grid. But beneath the surface, the clash was inevitable. Edison was a craftsman of the present, hammering solutions until they sold. Tesla was an architect of futures, trusting the purity of blueprints over the noise of trial and error. One optimized the now, the other prototyped the unseen. The workshop smelled of sweat and progress, but also of tension. For what happens when an empire is wired to one kind of current, and a quiet heretic walks in whispering of another? Try to imagine a world bound by wires that could never wander far. That was Edison's direct current, short-lived, heavy, chained to its source. To light a continent with DC would have meant covering the land with endless stations, like candles fighting to hold back the night. Into this cage stepped Tesla, carrying something the age was not prepared to accept: electricity that could flow like a river, rising and falling, surging across mountains, traveling farther than anyone dared to dream. Alternating current was more than a new trick. It was a new law. Raise the voltage and send it soaring, then tame it at its destination. Energy no longer crawled, it leapt. For the first time, power could ignore distance. But revolutions never arrive quietly. Edison's camp branded AC as a killer, staging gruesome spectacles to terrify the public. They wired animals, even a condemned man, to prove that Tesla's current belonged to death. And yet, Tesla refused to answer with fear. Instead, he built a cathedral of light. At the Chicago World's Fair in 1893, night itself was torn open, over 90,000 lamps bursting alive in unison. The crowd gasped, but history had already decided. The future would hum to Tesla's rhythm. Then came Niagara. The waterfall that had thundered for eternity now roared with a new voice: electricity. Through Tesla's polyphase system, its power leapt across hundreds of miles, feeding cities, factories, and the restless engines of modern civilization. Nature itself had become a generator. Still, this was never just a rivalry between two men. It was the collision of philosophies. Edison trusted sweat and repetition, hammer the problem until it bent. Tesla trusted visions, the geometry of patterns, equations that whispered of hidden harmonies. One man sold the present, the other mortgaged his soul to the future. And though the current was his, the victory was not. Empires rarely reward their profits. Tesla gave the world its arteries of power, but in exchange the world left him wandering its edges, brilliant, celebrated, and already haunted by the shadows of what he had yet to reveal. Tesla's triumph was brief, almost spectral, like lightning that blinds but fades before the thunder. The world had accepted his current, yet it refused to accept the man himself. Investors circled him when profit seemed near, then vanished the moment his vision stretched beyond their imagination. Patents slipped away. Companies dissolved. The Niagara that roared with his genius left him with nothing but silence. The winter of 1886 became his crucible. The man who had harnessed a waterfall now carried a shovel, digging ditches to keep himself alive. Later, he would write that his education felt like mockery when measured against cold hunger. And yet, in that very season of ruin, the storm inside him grew sharper, more dangerous. When the ashes settled, Tesla reinvented himself. He built new arc lighting systems, registered patents in America, and dazzled engineers who could barely keep pace with his designs. But money men saw only short-term gains. They dismissed his obsession with motors that ran on alternating current, blind to the revolution hiding in plain sight. In their pursuit of safety, they left Tesla stripped of control, his own creations walking the world without him, like children stolen from their father. Still, he did not stop. In laboratories cluttered with wires and glowing coils, Tesla conjured visions of the wireless age to come, motors that ran clean and silent, signals leaping invisibly through the air. Each failure, each betrayal, was folded into his resolve. He was not merely an inventor anymore. He was becoming something rarer, a visionary willing to burn himself so the future could see. But destiny is cruel to those who walk too far ahead. Each time Tesla rose, the ground beneath him crumbled. Each time he proved the impossible, the world demanded proof again. It was as if history itself conspired to test the limits of his endurance. And here, the shadows deepen. For what kind of man survives such ruin? A broken genius? Or a prophet reshaped into something stranger, something the world was still unprepared to meet? For most men, sleep is a sanctuary. For Tesla, it was an enemy. He confessed he never needed more than 2 hours at a time, and often even less. Nights for him were not silence, but siege, his mind swarming with visions that refused to let him rest. To call it insomnia misses the truth. Tesla did not merely lose sleep. He lived on the border between waking and dreaming, and that border became his workshop. Witnesses told stories that sound impossible. 70 hours at his desk without pause, eyes blazing as though lit by the very currents he commanded. He walked miles every evening, pacing in obsessive rhythms, as if the steady beat of his steps could anchor him against the storm inside. He counted everything: steps, napkins, bites of food, trying to impose order where none existed. Germs terrified him, and he washed compulsively, a man at war with the invisible. And yet, out of these compulsions came revelations. Tesla spoke of sudden flashes, bursts of light in his mind, where entire machines appeared fully formed. Motors spun, coils hummed, circuits connected, all before a single piece of copper was bent. To the world, these were hallucinations. To Tesla, they were rehearsals of the future. Here lies the paradox. What looked like madness may have been method. Modern science might call it obsessive-compulsive disorder or neurological anomaly. But in Tesla's life, these symptoms were also engines of discovery. By stripping away sleep, by submitting to ritual, by living on the razor's edge of exhaustion, he opened a door most of us never glimpse. The question that lingers is not whether Tesla was unwell. It is whether his illness was also his gift. Did sleepless nights consume him? Yes. But did they also let him peer through cracks in the fabric of reality? Glimpsing machines and patterns the rest of humanity would only discover a century later? Of all Tesla's obsessions, none feels more like a riddle left behind for the ages than three simple numbers: 3, 6, and 9. To most, they are ordinary digits. To Tesla, they were a cipher. Keys to a lock the universe still refuses to reveal. The mathematics begins innocently. Double a number, reduce it to a single digit, and a cycle emerges. 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, and back again. But in this eternal loop, something strange happens. 3, 6, and 9 are missing, as if exiled from the circle. Double 3 and it becomes 6. Double 6 and it returns to 3. An endless orbit. 9 stands apart, untouchable. 18, 36, 72, always collapsing back into itself. The eternal 9. To modern mathematicians, this is modular arithmetic, a curiosity of base 10 numbers. But Tesla saw more than curiosity. He saw a hidden geometry, a pulse running beneath the skin of reality. 3 and 6, oscillating like breath in and out. 9, unchanging, eternal, a singularity that watches over the dance. And so, he wove these numbers into ritual. He circled buildings 3 times before stepping inside, as if aligning with unseen harmonics. He demanded meals with 18 napkins, divisible by 3 and 6, as if symmetry itself could shield him from chaos. Even the number of his final room, 3327, echoed his devotion, collapsing back into 3. Coincidence? Or the mark of a man living under a numerical spell? Skeptics dismiss it as compulsion. Perhaps they are right. But pause for a moment. Why do these numbers appear across cultures, faiths, and architecture? The Holy Trinity, the 6-pointed star, the Enneagram of 9. Ancient builders carved them into temples. Tesla saw them in equations. 2 worlds, centuries apart, echoing the same rhythm. So was this madness or intuition? Did Tesla stumble into a simple quirk of arithmetic or brush against a deeper law, one that whispers of vibration, frequency, and the architecture of the cosmos itself? The code remains unsolved, but the question burns brighter than ever. If 3, 6, and 9 truly are keys, then what door were they meant to open? And why did Tesla believe the universe itself was waiting on someone brave enough to turn the lock? When Tesla's body was discovered in a New York hotel room in January 1943, the world thought a life had ended. In truth, something else had begun, a mystery that still casts its shadow. He left behind trunks of papers, blueprints, half-finished equations, sketches that looked more like prophecies than machines. Some spoke of wireless power, others of death beams, still others of forces no language could quite contain. For a brief moment, these papers existed, and then, like smoke, they were gone. Witnesses recall federal agents sealing his belongings before his family even arrived. The official line was simple: impractical notes from an eccentric. But whispers told another story. 80 trunks were counted, 60 returned years later, 20 never surfaced. 20 trunks that might have contained the strangest secrets of the electrical age, swallowed by silence. The suspects gather like phantoms in the dark. The Soviets, desperate for breakthroughs as the Cold War dawned. The Germans, searching for any weapon to prolong a dying Reich. And the Americans themselves, determined that no immigrants' visions should empower enemies or even allies. Each theory has its believers. Each carries its own shadow. What did those missing papers contain? Some say fragments of the death ray, a weapon so terrible it could end armies before they began to march. Others imagine propulsion systems that defied gravity, the seed of legends about discs in the sky. Still others whisper that the notes weren't about weapons at all, but about control. The tuning of the planet itself, weather bent like metal, storms turned into weapons. The FBI would later declassify a portion of Tesla's files, 250 pages. Thick with numbers and sketches, enough to tempt, never enough to satisfy. If Tesla left 80 trunks, why do 20 still elude us? Were they destroyed to protect the public? Hidden to protect the powerful? Or are they still here, locked away in some vault, waiting for a hand bold enough or foolish enough to open them? This is no longer biography. It is an open case, a crime scene without a body, a theft without a witness. And until the missing papers are found, we are left with only the most dangerous question of all. Were those 20 trunks the ravings of a tired old man, or the kind of knowledge that could still change the balance of power on Earth today? What could possibly be inside Tesla's missing trunks? Some whisper that among the scattered sketches lay the most dangerous vision of all, the idea that nature itself could be bent into a weapon. Tesla once spoke of the Earth as if it were alive, vibrating at hidden frequencies that could be tapped, amplified, and unleashed. To most, these were metaphors. To Tesla, they were blueprints. He dreamed of transmitting power wirelessly through the very air and ground, of tuning the planet like a vast instrument. If such power could light cities, could it also summon storms? Decades after Tesla's death, a facility appeared in the frozen emptiness of Alaska. The High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP. Officially, it was a scientific outpost, studying the ionosphere, the thin veil of charged particles that shields us from the fury of the sun. But its scale, its secrecy, and its funding from the military seeded darker suspicions. Conspiracy theorists called it Tesla's ghost, his missing pages reborn in steel and antennae. They claimed the giant transmitters could heat pockets of the sky, bend jet streams, trigger earthquakes, even steer hurricanes. Reports surfaced of strange auroras, weather anomalies, storms that seemed to turn as though guided by an unseen hand. Scientists deny these powers, pointing out that the energy HAARP pumps into the sky is a drop compared to the oceanic force of the atmosphere itself. But denial has never killed mystery. The very existence of the program, shrouded in classification and black budgets, keeps suspicion alive. And the shadow of Tesla, his obsession with frequency, vibration, and control, makes the story irresistible. Imagine it. Storms conjured on command, droughts inflicted as punishment, earthquakes deployed like bombs, a weapon invisible, deniable, yet devastating. If such a thing existed, it would not merely tilt the balance of war, it would give those who wield it the power of gods. So is HAARP truly the heir to Tesla's forbidden ideas, or only a mirror for our fears? The evidence is fragmentary, the answers elusive. But one truth is harder to ignore. The concept of weather as a weapon did not die with Tesla. It lingers, a storm cloud on the horizon of history, waiting for the day when someone finds the courage or the madness to open the sky. For all the shadows that coil around Tesla's name, there is one truth that cannot be hidden. He gave the modern world its heartbeat. His alternating current was not just an invention, it was a rewrite of destiny. Imagine the Earth without it. Cities would glow dimly, tethered to short pulses of direct current that died within blocks. Factories would choke, railroads would stall. The spread of light itself would shrink to islands instead of continents. The 20th century as we know it, its skyscrapers, its electric nights, its restless machines would not exist. Tesla's polyphase system, born in the theater of his mind and proven at Niagara, stretched invisible veins across nations. Through them pulsed the lifeblood of progress, power that could leap mountains, cross deserts, and feed a civilization that had only begun to imagine itself. The crackle of every street lamp, the hum of every factory motor, the glow of every home lit after dusk, each carried the imprint of Tesla's vision. And it did not stop at lamps and motors. From his principles of resonance and wireless transmission came the seeds of technologies we now take for granted. Remote controls, radio waves, the very architecture of smartphones, satellites, and global networks echoes with Tesla's fingerprints. He once predicted that humanity would one day hold in its pocket a device small enough to carry, yet powerful enough to connect anyone, anywhere, instantly. An uncanny prophecy of the smartphone decades before silicon was born. What is most haunting is not only that Tesla foresaw these things, but that he framed them as instruments of unity. He spoke of a world wired together, not by conquest, but by connection. To him, alternating current was not just power, it was potential. A ladder reaching upward, toward a civilization that might one day transcend borders, war, and darkness. And yet, this is where the paradox lies. The man who electrified the planet walked through much of his life in poverty, mocked by rivals, abandoned by investors. Humanity embraced his current but not his person. His ideas illuminated the world, even as his own rooms remained dim. It is tempting to see this as tragedy, but perhaps it is something else. Perhaps Tesla was never meant to be celebrated in marble halls or gilded with wealth. Perhaps he was meant to vanish into myth, so that his ideas, unshackled from the man, could run free across the globe, invisible currents shaping everything we touch. So when you turn on a light, charge a phone, or hear a signal whisper across the air, you are not just using technology. You are touching the afterglow of a vision. The current is still here, humming beneath our lives, a silent reminder that even in ruin, Tesla reshaped the world. In the final years, Tesla's life seemed to collapse into shadows. A man once hailed as Prometheus of electricity was reduced to a silent figure in a New York hotel, feeding pigeons as if they were his last companions. To the casual eye, he was finished. But beneath the quiet, a darker story coiled. He left behind trunks of notes, sketches that spoke of weapons that could end wars, machines that could defy gravity, equations that read like star maps. Officially, they were unproven theories. Yet almost immediately, many disappeared. 80 trunks were counted, 60 returned, 20 never seen again. Then came the whispers. That Tesla had not only dreamed of other worlds, he had listened to them. Crumbling FBI memos hint at signals from beyond Earth. Some mention Venus, others mysterious Pleiadians, beings who urged peace, progress, and power through frequency. Skeptics dismiss these claims as the ramblings of an aging genius, but the coincidence is harder to ignore. Technologies Tesla sketched decades earlier mirror the very rumors that surround UFOs, disks, beams, propulsion without fuel. Were these visions madness, or glimpses through a door the rest of humanity could not see? Were the missing trunks burned to protect us, or hidden to preserve an advantage too great to share? The enigma is not just about Tesla's papers. It is about the silence that surrounds them. Silence thick enough to last 80 years. Silence enforced by governments, whispered about by scientists, feared even by those who believe. And so the question sharpens. Was Nikola Tesla simply a man, brilliant, flawed, undone by time? Or was he something stranger, a messenger who carried fragments of knowledge, not meant for his century, perhaps not even meant for this Earth? The final enigma is this. Perhaps we are not waiting to uncover Tesla's secrets. Perhaps we are already living inside them. In the end, Nikola Tesla died alone. No riches, no family, no empire. A frail figure in a dim hotel room, his only witnesses the pigeons he loved. To the world, it seemed the closing of a sad chapter. But to history, it was something else entirely. The moment a man slipped fully into myth. For what is myth, if not truth, stretched across time? Tesla's alternating current still surges through the veins of our cities. His wireless dreams echo in every signal that leaps invisibly through the air. His visions, some realized, some buried, continue to shape the world long after his body was laid to rest. We live inside his afterglow. Every light that burns after sunset, every motor that hums, every phone that whispers across oceans, these are his monuments. No marble, no bronze, but living monuments of current, resonance, and connection. And yet, the mystery clings. Were his lost papers nothing more than the fevered scrawls of an exhausted mind, or the kind of knowledge that, in the wrong hands, could remake the balance of nature itself? Was Tesla merely human, brilliant and broken? Or was he, as some still wonder, a messenger, an exile of the stars, entrusted with fragments of a cosmic code? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between. Perhaps genius itself is a kind of exile, a life spent straddling the border between what is and what might be. Tesla walked that border. And in doing so, he gave us more than inventions. He gave us a vision of possibility, a reminder that the universe may still hold doors unopened. So the current hums on, silent but eternal, a pulse beneath the world, carrying both light and questions. And as we switch on the lamps, charge our devices, and look into the dark sky at night, we are left with the echo of a single enigma. Was Tesla the man who lit the world, or the myth who left us chasing his shadows? Look at the screen in your hand. Maps, voices, images, knowledge of entire worlds, delivered through invisible air. 100 years ago, that was sorcery. Today, it is background noise. That chasm between madness and normal, that is the ground Tesla walked. But Tesla's greatest gift was not the current, nor the devices. It was the question he forced upon us. How much of tomorrow will we refuse to see, simply because it feels impossible today? He lived as a man. He died in obscurity. And yet, his shadow still presses against us, reminding us that disbelief is the first wall every future must climb. So I leave you with this. The next Tesla, the next vision we mock as madness, may already be here. The only question is whether we will recognize it before it becomes our ordinary Tuesday. Tell me what you think. Was Tesla a genius, a prophet, or something stranger? Share your thoughts below. And if you want to keep uncovering the enigmas history has hidden, subscribe to Chronicle of Secret. The story doesn't end here.